Representative Herr, welcome back to the committee. Representative Pryor, would you like to move House File 2056 before the committee with the intention of possibly including it in an education finance bill? Oh, Representative Pryor? I can see that you're studying it, so could you
Yes,
move
Madam
the
Chair,
bill?
so moved.
Thank you. Representative Pryor moves House File 2056 before the committee. With that, Representative Herr, go ahead and start your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Joachim, and committee members. By the way, I support that last bill too. I have an MBA, really important, financial education. But thank you for hearing House File 2056. The bill before you is a request for increased funding to the Education Partnership Coalition, or EPCs. Just a quick overview of the bill is that Section 1 through 3 just cleans up language with EPC statute to better describe the types of grants. And then Section 4 is actually where the bulk of the information is, and it is to increase to the two partners. It provides an increase to the two partnerships that were put into education-based budget in 2015 and adds 6 regional programs into the base. So that just breaks down to $1 million each, additional to Northside Achievement Zone and St. Paul Promise neighborhoods for each of the each year of the biennium, and then $220,000 a year to 6 of the regional programs, which includes Austin, Rochester, Red Wing, Northfield, and St. Cloud. And then it seeks new funding of $300,000 per year for the St. Louis Park Partnership Program. So EPC was codified in Minnesota statute in section 124D.99 back in 2017, and EPCs engage more than 120,000 youth and families across Minnesota. Coalition members take a birth-to-career approach to eliminating Minnesota's worst in nation opportunity gaps, and all coalition members are locally controlled, data-driven, private-public partnerships. But truthfully, EPCs are special to me. I had the great fortune of being on the advisory committee for the St. Paul Promise neighborhood. It seemed like such a long time ago, but at that time, my girls were only in elementary school. They're 23 and 19 now, so this has been in, something we've been working, developing many years. And I gave up my career in the private sector so that I could be a stay-at-home mom. And what I saw every day in the schools really broke my heart, that in the same education, the outcomes were so different for the different children that were experiencing that education. And I wanted to understand more as to why that disparity persisted and what we could do differently about that. And at that time, I don't believe that I could have ever envisioned how well the Promise neighborhood would do, or the reach that it would have across the state. But I did believe in dreaming something better for our children. And I didn't have the words, maybe educators did, but I didn't have the words back then to talk about a 2-generational approach or supporting families from cradle to career. But I knew that we could build a system that would ensure a child's success was not determined by their zip code. I'm proud to report that SPNN serves over 800 children during the summer months to prevent summer slide. 100% of parents reported their children were more excited about school, which is amazing. And then 86% of students maintained improved literacy skills. I myself have had the opportunity to visit a number of schools in the St. Paul Promise neighborhood, and I especially like visiting when I get to be there on the days they have Harambe. I think that's every day, but it's felt special to me being there that day. It's the way schools should always be, and if you haven't actually experienced Harambe, you should. You absolutely should go, because it shows us a new way of how to engage students and what school should feel like. So Chair Joachim, I could go on and on about how wonderful EPCs are, but I do have testifiers here today who can tell you more about why we must continue to invest and answer any questions that you all might have. And so on the testifiers list, I think you have that list up there as well, but I do have Megan Jeckett, who is an advocacy and a civic engagement program manager at St. Paul Promise neighborhood, and I can turn it over to her for testimony.
Thank you so much. Megan Jeckett, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Chair Joachim, Vice Chair Clardy, and members of the committee, my name is Megan Jeckett, and I work at the St. Paul Promise neighborhood. For over 10 years, SPPN has promoted racial and economic justice so every child in St. Paul can live a great life, pursue the career of their choice, and build wealth for their family. Today, I am testifying in support of House File 2056 to support funding for the Education Partnerships Coalition, of which we are a member alongside 8 other cradle-to-career initiatives across the state. Education is a main driver of our work with families and scholars, as we have direct partnerships with 3 schools in the Promise neighborhood, forming a strong foundation for authentic community engagement and natural connections with our families. Through this engagement and connection, we take a proactive and preventative approach to help close Minnesota's education opportunity gap. At its core, our work focuses early on a child's life and considers the conditions of their whole family and whole community. From offering financial literacy courses and opportunities to build self-sufficiency through our People's Fellowship, to our family success coaches, working with caregivers to explain brain development, and promote reading in the home starting at birth. We know what is good for our families is good for our scholars, and in turn, good for our community. Such early and ongoing support addressing economic and developmental factors contributing to a child's academic success helps minimize and even removes barriers to overall family success, thus allowing our scholars the opportunity to show up in school ready to learn and succeed. This is just a glimpse into our work at the St. Paul Promise neighborhood. We thank you for your past investments that make all of this possible, and we ask for your continued support through House File 2056. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, next up we have Jeremiah Ellis. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Yurakim, Vice Chair Clarity, and members of the committee. Thank you for taking the time to hear from us today. I'm Jeremiah Ellis, Director of Partnerships at Generation Next, which is a regional partnership member of the Education Partnership Coalition. Generation Next exists to create solutions in education to the education challenges that cannot be solved in silos. For example, the silos of higher education cannot solely meet the post-secondary attainment goal without the partnership of K-12 and the workforce. At Generation Next, we bring together system leaders to target the pain points in the education pipeline, particularly in Minneapolis and St. Paul. You might liken us to an urban core division of the P20 Council, of which we are a member as well. Today, I'm excited to share with you briefly a few highlights of 3 areas in which we've harnessed data and collected action to improve education outcomes in early grade literacy, social emotional learning, and post-secondary pathways. In the early grade reading space, we brought together 12 literacy tutoring organizations, and Generation Next cultivated a space for them to share their promising practices and their program data. Now, this was a little bit risky for these organizations because sharing their proprietary information could put in jeopardy their funding, particularly when you're sharing that with their so-called competitors. But through a facilitated process and sessions, these programs participated in a way that supported their improved literacy for the students that they served, and particularly their literacy skill development. In the social emotional learning space, we partnered with both local youth development experts as well as data experts to measure and determine how socially emotionally equipped a young person is to learn. And through the analysis of the Minnesota Student Survey, it helped us to understand the social emotional learning well-being measures. And our EPC partners are interested in further engagement with the Minnesota Student Survey to better address the needs of the students in their own communities. And finally, in the post-secondary pathway space, through a multi-year agreement with the Minnesota statewide longitudinal educational data system, also known as Sleds, we've been able to visualize the various pathways to and through post-secondary, including the demographics of enrollment, completion, dual credit, developmental education, and employment. This pathway data has guided us to the pain points of that first year transition into post-secondary, and Sleds has guided us to the 2-year public institutions where our students are most likely to attend. And then from there, we've been able to direct resources and expertise to further enhance the innovation in those institutions. And so Generation Next, in conjunction with the Education Partnership Coalition, jointly address the education challenges across our beloved state, and we thank you for your time and ask for your continued support.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have Sandy Maleka from Northfield. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Thank you. Chair Yurakim, Vice Chair Clarity, and members of the committee, thank you for your time today. My name is Sandy Maleka, and I am the Director of the Northfield Healthy Community Initiative in Northfield, Minnesota. The Healthy Community Initiative serves as the backbone and convener for Northfield Promise, our decade-old cradle-to-career initiative whose flagship programs include our full-service community schools. Along with our Education Partnerships Coalition members across Minnesota, we believe that every child and young adult can succeed cradle-to-career if a community's systems are aligned and working collectively toward that goal. Our coalition uses a framework of shared community vision, data-based decision-making, and collective action and accountability to improve outcomes for children and youth. I was born and raised in Northfield, graduated from Northfield High School, and I now live in Rice County with my husband and 3 kids where we operate a small cash crop farm. As a proud townie, I have witnessed the incredible way that Northfield Promise has changed the culture of our community, engaging leaders from across sectors and community members with diverse racial and socioeconomic backgrounds to work toward the common goal of making sure ours is a community where young people can grow up, live, work, and give back. Northfield Promise leads this work in 3 ways. First, we provide robust data tracking and visualization support to the community schools and other programs in Rice County. Our team supports more than 30 children and youth-serving initiatives to track and share data that allows programs to allocate resources to where they're most needed. Second, we convene community members and leaders, giving youth and families a voice at the decision-making tables. We hold decision makers accountable to improving outcomes for children and youth by sharing data regularly so all can see if what we're doing is working or if we need to change course. Third, we seek and secure financial resources, share evidence-based practices, and provide training and measurement tools that allow programs to actively self-assess and continually improve so they work better for kids. We are good at identifying and scaling what works. Northfield Promise and the Education Partnerships Coalition build our community's capacity to work collectively. No organization can do this alone. An ongoing investment in the Education Partnerships Coalition is essential to Minnesota's future so that we can sustain work underway and scale to reach more Minnesota communities. The Education Partnerships Coalition has a proven track record of leveraging public investments to bring millions of foundation and private dollars into Minnesota communities. As a coalition, we are building civic infrastructure to reduce disparities, leverage assets, and improve outcomes for Minnesota's children and youth. Your support of House File 2056, which provides consistent funding for the Education Partnerships Coalition, will strengthen our current support of full-service community schools and other programs while allowing us to scale what works to more Minnesota communities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. With that, members, that's the testifiers. I'll go to the table for comments or questions. Representative Purcell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank all of our testifiers, especially those of you with Northfield connections. There's a couple of you up there. I moved to Northfield for the 3rd time 8 years ago and was absolutely dumbstruck by the numbers that have come out of our Promise community and all the great work that Healthy Community Initiative does. I lived at some point. I lived at some point on the west side of town and thought that maybe my children would get to go to the full-service community school, Greenvale Park. And when we moved to the other side of town, I was sadly disappointed until this year, where my children's elementary school also became a community school. And it's truly remarkable. And thank you for all of your data-based work, as well as just all the love. And if my community is any indicator for all these other communities that are happening across the state, I'm very proud to be a co-sponsor of this. Thank you, Representative Herr, for championing this, and thanks to the testifiers and all the work that you're doing across the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Hadala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good programs in a lot of communities. Just one concern for me, I'm kind of the attention to tax filings person here. So I looked at just North Side Achievement Zone in the St. Paul Promise neighborhood. North Side Achievement Zone, according to the 2021 tax filings, carried over $9 million. So to me, that just tells me there was a surplus of revenue on hand compared to potential need if we're carrying over that much money. And then looking at the St. Paul Promise neighborhood, it's actually a program arm of the Wilder Foundation, which currently has $148 million in assets. So just concerning to me that we're gonna add a couple $1 million more to the Wilder Foundation, despite if they're doing great work. I just wanted to make that comment as far as fiscal responsibility for our taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hadala. Representative Herr?
Madam Chair, thank you, and Representative Hardella, thank you for that question. I actually like to look at 990s as well. I did not look at the 990s for today, but we do, our testifier did have a comment that he could make to address that point.
Go ahead, Mr. Ellis.
Madam Chair, Representative, thank you for your question, and that's something that we could follow up with, give you some further information if you'd like that. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Representative Hatala.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. I've got Representative Pryor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Hurd. I remember in 2017 when this was first brought forward and how exciting it was. We actually had some toddlers who were in the room too. I kind of missed that. That would have been good to see them again. But one thing that's so impressive about this, of course, we're talking about a partnership. I mean, it's not just the state, but obviously we're in partnership with some of the most viable, and the reputation of a group like the Wilder is just incredible. So I understand that partnership part of it is that we're not having the state fund everything, but it's having the resources and the leverage and the stability to say this is an important program. And that then you have businesses and nonprofits that are willing to partner with us to roll this out, but that it is key to have the resources of the state as a part of it. And I would love more discussion of the sleds, of the data element of this, and how we're building on the availability of being able to understand how we're able to collect data as we partner with other groups. And then and how we create evidence-based programs, and then use that to promote best practices and to know where we're really making a difference in our community. And because I know that we had a great discussion in my office about that, and I think that would be something that just we want to highlight again in the committee is how data-driven this is and how important that is to the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Who would like to just make comments? Mr. Ellis.
Madam Chair, Representative, thank you for your question. I would love to talk more about Sleds, and we'll just say a little bit about how we're utilizing that sort of information. I'd say 10 years ago, we were looking at, way we were measuring post-secondary success was by the number of post-secondary degrees that we had in our community. So what percentage of adults had post-secondary degrees? The way we've kind of shifted over the last couple of years is to look at our system. How many post-secondary degrees is our systems producing? And so we've been able to take that data from to having a better idea of the students who come out of our systems and know that 4 years down the line, how many of them have post-secondary certifications or degrees. What this latest kind of connection that we have with Sleds has allowed us to do is to look at those spots in between, not just the outcome data of post-secondary, but the years in between. So we look at when a young person graduates from high school, their degree which they'll go into post-secondary or not, and they're continuing in that post-secondary success pathways or not, and kind of understanding the degree to which we are losing talent. And so that has allowed us to be able to dive in and understand a little bit more the nuance that is possible in that space, so that we can work with our partners, as you talk about partners in higher education and in the corporate space as well, to look at the issues that these young people are having and want work in such a way that addresses the missing needs to fill those gaps.
Thank you. Members, any other further questions or comments? Representative Pierce-Vega.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Hurd. I'm glad to be a part of this work with you. Wilder Foundation is a housing. It's like a platform of a stage for this program that's so influential to our kids. The little smiles on the faces I've got to experience just volunteering and walking into the Wilder Foundation and community. When those kids get their backpacks, when those kids have all types of great school supplies filled in and snacks that they're not privileged enough to have. And this is what our state's about. It's about putting those smiles on those kids and ensuring that their education, upbringing is positive. And it starts at an early age. And so thank you for presenting this, and thank you to all of the testifiers seated today. Gracias.
Thank you. And I'll have to say too, is what I like about all your different programming is how much you partner, not only with the community and the children, but the parents. And I think maybe Northside Achievement Zone, if you could come up for just a brief second and talk about the parenting aspect of this and how you pull folks in. I think it's an important piece that we talk, that your programming does.
Yeah, I can talk for St. Paul Promise neighborhood.
Sorry, St. Paul Promise
That's
neighborhood,
okay.
sorry.
So I can do a overview from my position doing advocacy and civic engagement. I'll speak to first like our People's Fellowship, which I mentioned. It's the bread and butter of the work we do at the Promise neighborhood. It's a 5-month fellowship for African-American families who have a child either in the Promise neighborhood or attending one of our partner schools. And essentially, it's a two-generation approach, as we've spoken to, where the kiddo and the scholars are attending Sankofa, which is Afrocentric literacy curriculum, because again, we got to get these reading scores up if we're going to prepare for our workforce of tomorrow and get our families on a pathway to college and career success. And then while our scholars are in the literacy curriculum, parents go through a curriculum called Parent Power, how to be more active and take up a larger role in their child's life, whether that's in the school setting, community setting, just to really focus on that family well-being so that the work that we're doing in our schools isn't just falling off the cliff when it gets home, or especially in our work with Summer Slide, we wrap our families tightly and support them year-round. In addition to that parent power work, they're also going through financial literacy and wealth building. And as we just heard from the good folks at Junior Achievement, how important that is. That if we want our investments that we're making on a state level to go that much further, we have to start with the family, the whole family at home, and their kiddos. One story I can speak to from a family member I just talked to, she's doing financial literacy at Model Cities, and her 6-year-old right now is losing his baby teeth, and he has woken up to find what the tooth fairy has left. She's using her lessons from Model Cities to talk about the importance of saving, and he just now is realizing how much more you can do with $5 if you save up those 5 teeth earnings versus $1. And he goes with his baby brother to Toddler Tuesdays out at Mall of America, and he respectfully asked his mom if he could see her wallet, and he then took on an active decision-making role at their day at Mall of America, saying, okay, we've got $20, what can I do with $20? What can we as a family do with $20? So it's work like that where we're serving the whole family, and then we bring that into advocacy opportunities such as these, where we're taking the experiences of our families and scholars and advocating for changes to our systems that will change the odds for a generation of our families and scholars in St. Paul, really focus on that whole family city focus. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to have that briefly touched on because I know your programs all do such an incredible job of making sure, like you said, that it's just not staying with the child, but it's affecting the entire family and helping lift them all up. And Representative Herr, you had final comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to address Representative Hidela's question about the 990. And maybe he and I can talk offline, because usually the 990 looks at assets and liability, not as much as, it's not like an income statement where it's looking at revenues and what you're making. So I'd love to maybe just dig in a little bit to understand if the numbers that you're looking at, because assets and liability just tell us what we owe and what we own in assets. And so, and because these are complete programs that are wraparound services, that there are facilities, they do own assets there. And so I just want to make sure that maybe we can talk offline and take a look at that specifically. But I do just want to say that this work is greatly important to me because of what I saw in the disparities. And as I started to do education work, people would come to me and say, if I could help them work on the disparities that they were seeing. And I always told people, you're asking me 200 years too late, right? Like if you're asking me to help you now fix this problem, we're too late. And if you're asking me to help you look at elementary school and high school, it's too late. Like this work starts at birth. And the fact that this work and what we're doing and how we're caring for families and children starts at birth. And that early childhood brain development is so critical. And having been an early childhood brain development fellow and understanding the impact of that, like we can't start when we're doing now. We have to provide this services and this support from when a mother becomes pregnant with a child, and then how do we support that entire family? And so this work is incredibly critical for me, and hoping to understand that my children might be grown on out of the system, but there are many more kiddos coming in who need all of the supports that these coalition build and create for families. And so I ask all of you to support and continue to support this, because this is really something that we do standard across our state, not just specific programs in specific neighborhoods, because this is that important. So I ask the committee to support this, and I look forward to working with anyone who has any questions about the program.
Thank you, Representative Herr. With that, House File 2056 is laid over for possible inclusion in an education finance bill.